Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Garden Hour with MU Extension. We're so glad that you were able to join us today. My name is Donna Aufdenberg, and I'm your host for today. I am located down in the southeast portion of the state by Cape Girardeau, and boy, are we dry. And I believe that's how we are statewide. We have a lot of great questions and lots of information for you today, as always. We will be talking a lot about drought and heat because, boy, it sure has been dry, like I said. Definitely keep those questions coming in, and we love the pictures and just all the information that that is being requested. So Ramon has changed his name to ask your questions here. So at any time during this garden hour, if you have questions, please send them to him. Make sure to include, as we're reaching the end of the program, if you include your email address and we run out of time, we will be able to shoot you an email with an answer. Eli will be monitoring our chat, so he'll be looking for some of those questions coming through too. We are going to start with a weather report with Tony. Tony, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Great.
Okay, well, let me share what I've got here. I'll just show the weather radar real quick because we're seeing the rain which first started in especially western Missouri, north of I-44, and it's crossing Missouri as we speak. And a lot of us north of I-44 are getting that rain. Unfortunately for you all down in the southern part of Missouri, not quite as much. So let me go to our normal briefing here. And again, we'll keep this a little bit shorter since a lot of the information is not new. We just seem to be having quite that kind of summer. I'll just show you quickly here that you've been watching the news. There's a lot of heat down in Texas, Oklahoma region. This heat is beginning to expand and is going to cover much of Kansas and Missouri for the next few days. And don't be surprised if most of us see our first triple-digit heat of the season here on Thursday and Friday. And of course, that's not good news, especially given the fact that our dew points continue to be quite low for this time of the year in this part of the country. And again, things that make drought worse are, of course, those low dew points, the higher winds, and the sunshine. And last Sunday, we had all three. The flow patterns become more progressive, and what that means is that we're going to see these troughs move along every once in a while and give us a chance for rain, and hopefully the models don't oversell the rain like they did last week. We definitely were looking for precip on Saturday, and not many of us got it. A lot of us missed out. Drought conditions did get a little worse. Again, it feels like every week, a little worse, a little worse, a little worse. Death by 1,000 cuts, if you will. But you can see that these D3 regions have gotten a little bigger in Missouri, and that's definitely not good. This was a bad week in terms of loss of precipitation versus normal. Again, the only, if you will, redeeming quality of this summer is that temperatures have been at or close to normal, and in the southern part of the state below normal. That cuts down on the evaporation, but still everybody lost precipitation with respect to normal. And again, what's changing? The patterns becoming more zonal. We're seeing that blocking pattern reduce over the last 3 weeks, and the pattern becoming more zonal, which again just means a better chance for precipitation. The NSEP forecast, again, you're seeing that in the 1 to 7 day forecast. Places are going to get an inch or more of precipitation if the models bear out in northern Missouri. And of course, northern Missouri needs it more than southern at this point, but everybody could use some. I'm not going to go here because this is the same as it was last week. 6 to 10 day outlook. Again, the models are a little bullish on precipitation across much of the plains states. So keep our fingers crossed that we're going to see a little bit of relief. But again, this time of year, don't expect that to build up the shortfalls that we're missing. It'll just help us limp along. The middle of July, kind of looking a little bit similar, except equal chances over Missouri. And again, please, if you're on CoCoRaHS, report. And if you're not, please join CoCoRaHS. Keep submitting our Seymour reports. Again, this is important for federal aid to areas and getting a true sense of how bad things are. Again, Missouri's doing great, but let's keep it up. Soil moisture's down across the northern part of the state, and the 4-inch level, almost no moisture. I showed this last week, and we saw a tiny bit of improvement in the southern part of the state over the week, but not much. I mean, it's dry everywhere. How's it going to look? Well, today and tomorrow, any of you getting out in the field, be careful. Heat advisory for most of Missouri. And a lot of us are already experiencing that Canadian smoke. So air quality may not be as good as well. So make sure that if you're out and you are susceptible to atmospheric pollutants of this type, there's going to be a lot of dust and smoke around. Today, the thunderstorms were scattered early, and we are seeing that clearing from west to east. High in the upper 90s today in the west, low 90s in the east. With heat index, you're generally talking about adding about 5 degrees to the temperature. It's for the feels like temperature. So keep that in mind as well. Tomorrow, again, sunshine and triple-digit heat for most of us. Heat indexes as much as 110 across much of the state. Thursday or Friday, probably again near 100 or into the low hundreds for most of us. So it's here. Summer's here, and we do expect 100-degree heat at some point. Nice thing is that as it has been for the last 3 weeks, Saturday's the best chance of precipitation, and that's statewide. Saturday should be cloudy and cool for most of us, or cooler. High in the upper 80s, but low 90s east and upper 90s boot heel. But some showers and thunderstorms statewide. Also Saturday night, expect widespread showers and thunderstorms again if the models are on track. Sunday, we'll see diminishing chances of showers and thunderstorms, and temperatures pretty seasonable for this time of year. And for those of you going to enjoy Independence Day, mostly sunny both days and seasonable temperatures, chance of pop-up thunderstorms, which again is typical for the summer. So if you are going to enjoy the holiday weekend, just be careful if you use fireworks, or if you know of anybody who wants to use fireworks, kind of advise them to temper that a little bit this year. Any questions?
No, this has been great, Tony. I just hope that that map proves to be right, that we're going to get a little moisture. But like you said, you never can tell.
Yes, let's keep our fingers crossed that the models aren't overselling it. So
definitely. Yeah. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Dhruba as your moderator.
All right. So thank you, Donna. As Donna said, my name is Dhruba Dhakal. So I'm a horticulture specialist. I'm housed in Cole County here in Jeff City. So today we have some talks and some questions that is related to some of the wilting. So some questions are related that the plants are not growing well, and that's why we are here. So our first question today is about the tomatillo problem. So the question is, why my tomatillo plant turning yellow, but the one next but the next one is not. So my colleague Dr. Ramon Arancibia is going to answer these questions. Ramon, are you ready?
Yes, hold on. I lost the
Yes, share the screen.
yeah. Can you go with the next video? I'll figure out this what happened.
All right. All right. So thank you, Ramon. So the next talk is about the protecting our plants, our garden plants from drought and high heat. So on this topic, I am going to talk about that. Let me share my screen here. Okay, so can somebody confirm whether you can see my screen, Donna or somebody? So can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right. Thank you, Ramon. Okay, so let's talk about the drought and heat effect on our garden plants. So before we talk about drought and heat, let me define some of the terminologies we use in the soil water balance that is mainly related to the water loss from our garden plants and soil. So let me start with transpiration. So when the plants, they absorb water from their roots from the soil, the absorbed water is transported to different parts of the plant, including leaf. Then those plants, they expel water through their leaves through a process called as transpiration. Actually, it is evaporation of water from the leaves of a plant, and this process maintains the cooling effect by taking off the heat of the plant and convert the water into water vapor. So this process also maintains the target pressure in the plant. It also helps in the transportation of minerals which are absorbed by the roots from the soil by creating a transpiration pool. And this helps in proper distribution of the minerals in the plants. So only a small proportion of those absorbed water is retained in plants. About 97% of those water absorbed through the plant root is lost through transpiration. So some water is lost through the stems and from flower, but most of them are lost through the leaves. Okay, so now let's talk about some environmental factors that affect the rate of transpiration from the plant. So the number one factor is the sunlight. So plants transpire more rapidly in the daylight than in the dark. It is because plants utilize water and carbon dioxide during the photosynthesis process in the presence of sunlight. The second factor is the air temperature. So plants transpire more rapidly at higher temperature because plants lose more water to maintain the cooling effect for those increased heat. next factor is humidity. If air is drier, that means more water is lost from the plant. Another factor is wind speed. So higher the wind speed, more water is lost from the plants. And the next factor is soil moisture content. So if more moisture is available in our soil up to the fill capacity, plants absorb more water, and there is more water lost from the plants through this process, through the transpiration process. But excuse me, when there is less soil moisture available to our plant, then our plants cannot maintain the water flow from the root system to other parts of the plant. Then our plants start wilting. So wilting is one of the defense mechanisms of the plant against drought and heat. So if we see our garden plants start wilting, we need to start watering them. Okay, so now let's talk about the evaporation. So it is the process in which water in the soil that get evaporated into the atmosphere due to heat. So let's talk about what are the main factors that affect the rate of evaporation from the soil. As we already discussed about this factor like air temperature, humidity, wind speed, soil moisture content. So these factors also affect the rate of evaporation from the soil. And there are some other factors that is related to the soil property. For example, soil texture. If the soil is clay or fine texture, this soil holds more water for longer period of time than the sandy soil, because clay soil has more micropores, more small pores, and these pores can hold water more tightly, and they are and the water present in the micropore are available for longer period of time for the plant to use. But in contrast, sandy soil has more macropore, means so they have the bigger pore, and the water present in the water present in those bigger pore are lost faster. So another soil property is the soil structure. So if a soil is well structured, that soil can hold more water for long period of time, and water holding capacity of the soil is better as compared to the poor structured soil. So the question might be how we can improve the soil structure in our garden. So the answer is we need to improve the organic matter content of the soil. So we can grow the cover crop, we can add compost, we can add animal manure and other organic manures in the soil to improve the organic matter content of the soil. Another factor that determines the rate of evaporation from the soil is how much surface area of the soil is exposed or covered with the vegetation or any type of planting, like plant material, for example, mulching materials. So we will talk about these in the coming slides. So let's talk about another term is called as evapotranspiration. So evapotranspiration is the combination of both evaporation in the soil or from the soil and the transpiration from the plant. So it is the loss of water combined from both plant surface, that means mainly from the plant leaf, and from the soil surface into the atmosphere. So the source of water for these both water loss processes are from the soil. So the main source is the soil. That means our soil needs to be watered somehow regularly. So if we get rain, that means the soil moisture is fulfilled by the rain. But if no rain, the situation we are having right now, so we do not get any rain. So and this leads to a situation which we are having right now is a drought. So the main cause of drought is lack of rainfall. So we all know that. So it is not under our control. So let me talk a little bit about the drought. So a drought is a period of abnormally dry weather for a long period of time, and it is because of lack of water in the soil, and it causes the serious hydrologic imbalance in the soil or in that region, in the area. So now let's talk about the effects of drought on the plant. So some of the main effects we can observe in our plant is wilting, drooping of the leaves, or scorching of the plant leaf rolling, or the leaves are brittle leaves, flower and fruit drop, and finally that cause to reduce the crop yield and the crop quality. Let me look here. Okay, so let me go to my previous slide, and I want to talk about a little bit about the soil water balance. So the soil water balance means the soil moisture storage. That means the water available in the soil depends on how much water we receive in the soil through the precipitation and irrigation, minus how much water we lose from the soil through the process of evapotranspiration from runoff and some small amount utilized by our plant. So when the input of water is decreased, means if we do not get any rain, any precipitation, and we cannot meet the demand of plant and soil for the water, then there will be a problem, and that situation leads to a drought, and our crops start to be suffer from the drought. So let's talk about the heat stress on plant. So various plants respond to the air temperature in different way. Let me talk about two different types of garden plants or horticultural plants. They are cool season plants and warm season plants. So cool season vegetable plants such as lettuce, radish, bok choy, broccoli, cabbage, and other leafy vegetables, and other plants, they are from the Brassica family. They prefer cooler soil temperature. So the optimum soil temperature for their proper growth and development is in the range of 50s and 60s. And these cool season crops, they may wilt or they begin to bolt if the air temperature go above 75 degrees Fahrenheit. So now let's talk about the warm season crops. So for the warm season crops, we call them as summer crops, especially for vegetable crops such as like tomato, peppers, beans, zucchini, pumpkin, and cucumber. The optimum temperature for their proper growth and development is about 75 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit during daytime and 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit during nighttime. However, this is not the case we are having this week and last week. So we are forecasted to have about like 99 degrees Fahrenheit today and 101 degrees Fahrenheit tomorrow and Friday here in Colombia and Jeff City area. So the heat index is 110 degrees Fahrenheit for tomorrow and Friday. And the minimum temperature is also forecasted 77 degrees Fahrenheit on both days. So these are the way higher than the upper limit of both daytime temperature of about 85 degrees Fahrenheit for the warm season crop, and the nighttime temperature, the upper limit is 70 degrees Fahrenheit for the summer crop. So now let's talk about some of the effect of high temperature in the plant. So high temperature stimulates the breakdown of the chlorophyll. So the chlorophyll is a compound in our plant that is a green pigment in our plant leaves and other plant parts. The high temperature causes breaking down of this molecule, and there is no chlorophyll formation in the plants. It results into yellowing of the leaves and other plant parts. And high temperature also causes wilting and dehydration in the plant. And there is a rapid softening of the fruits. And the heat also breaks down the cellulose and starch present in the plant tissue, and the heat changes enzyme activities in the plant. So it causes for the degradation of the flavor, taste, color, and quality of the fruits and vegetables. So let me take an example how that hot weather effect on our tomato plant. So it causes poor fruit set because the high temperature, if it is accompanied by low humidity, there will be failure of the viable pollen in the flower, and that cause poor fruit set. So if the temperature is above 90 degrees Fahrenheit during the day and above 70 degrees Fahrenheit during nighttime, usually that results in poor flowering and reduced fruit set in tomato. Another problem is delay in ripening in tomato. So the mature green tomato ripen most rapidly in the temperature range between 68 to 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Another problem of those high temperature in tomato is the color development. So the red pigment in tomato is called as lycopene, and the yellow pigment is called as carotene. So these two pigments give the tomato food color. So if we have the air temperature above 85 degrees Fahrenheit, that tend to slow down or even stop the production of these two pigments. We also have another problem in tomato fruit that is called as a yellow soldier in tomato fruit. So it is also caused by the heat. There is no production of red pigment. That means the lycopene on the soldier, which is exposed to the direct sunlight, but the remainder of the fruit ripens and turn red. So another problem is the white core. That is also because of the excessive heat and improper fertility, especially the potassium deficiency is associated with the high temperature for those white core development in the tomato fruit. Another problem in tomato is the blossom end rot. So the blossom end rot is caused by the lack of calcium in tomato. However, it is triggered by the lack of moisture in the soil, and the plant cannot uptake calcium from the soil because of the dry soil, and there is lack of calcium in the plant tissue and cause this issue. So maintaining adequate amount of calcium and proper and timely irrigation can reduce this problem. Okay, so these were the problems from those drought and heat. So now let's talk about, so how can we protect our plants from the drought and heat? So the first method we can apply is to maintain our plant health. We can select the right variety. So there are some heat tolerant variety available, especially for tomato and some in peppers. So we might want to select those varieties to minimize the effect from high temperature. And another method we can help to maintain our plant health is we need to supply the balanced nutrients to our crop. And if we remove the weeds on time, if we control disease and insect pests, and if we water them regularly, then they will grow very healthy. And if our plant is well nourished and healthy, and they are more resistant to drought and heat. Another method we can protect our plants from drought and heat is we need to improve the soil health. So if our soil is healthy, it means if the soil has good amount of organic matter, it can hold more water for a long period of time, and it can supply water to our plant. If we plant cover crop in between the main season crops, they maintain the soil microbial activity and diversity, and the cover crops has also many other benefits, like they conserve the soil moisture and they recycle the nutrients in the soil. Another option for improving soil health is we can make compost and apply in the garden. We can utilize the animal manure to add organic matter content in the soil. We can also practice like no-till or minimum tillage, which conserve soil moisture. And we need to test our soil regularly, and we need to maintain the soil pH, and that results the proper nutrient availability to our crops, and our crops will be healthy. Okay, so another method is make sure to water regularly and by the right method. So if we have plants in the pots, we need to water them twice a day in a hot day like this week, as the soil easily dry up in the heat. In the garden, we need to water plants in the morning, and it is not a good idea to water plants during noon or in the afternoon, since the water will just evaporate immediately, and our plants might not fully absorb it. So it is always better to do a shorter irrigation and more frequently than longer irrigation less frequently. And if it is possible, drip irrigation is the best option to save water and for the continuous supply of water to our garden plants. And we can also use the soaker hose, which cost only about $10 for the 20 feet long. And we can also collect the rainwater by using the barrels and trenches. We can also protect our plant with the mulch, and the mulching around the plant in the soil keep them cool and conserve soil moisture. And mulching also reduce the weed growth in the garden. While we use mulching materials, make sure they are weed seed free, and there is no any herbicide residue in the mulching material if we are using straw. And we can also utilize the dry grass clippings from mowing of our lawn. The next option is we can provide a shade to our plant. So shade reduces the drought stress in our plant. So the temporary shade can be made from shade cloth or from the protective row cover. While putting the shade cloth, make sure it is positioned in such a way that it blocks the sunlight, but do not reduce the air movement in the soil and for those plants. And we can also utilize the screen in a decorative way for the flower garden to reduce drought and heat stress to our flower plant. So that's all I have, and we have two short video related to drought and heat, and I think Jared is going to play those short video. So those videos are related about the irrigation your garden, and the second one is why are my tomato leaves curled?
In today's world, saving our natural resources while saving money is more important than ever. This week's Tuesday tip, we're taking a look at how it is possible to save our water while keeping our landscaping in tip-top shape. Hi, I'm Brad with the University of Missouri Extension Master Gardener. Sprinkler systems are easy to use but terribly inefficient. If you had 10 shrubs planted in a 30-foot circle, it would take 438 gallons of water to saturate the ground to about 1 inch. Using a drip irrigation system, it takes only 25 gallons of water for the same saturation. The MU guide sheet, Irrigating Trees and Shrubs During Summer Drought, details the drip irrigation system. It will help you figure out the components to buy if you want to build your own system, or it gives you the skills to assess the full kits available on the market today. While a drip system provides regular and effective irrigation, it's also the most expensive system to cut water usage. However, it can stay in place all year round and has a long life. If a drip system is not in your budget, you can still cut water usage with the soaker hose. As we all know, these hoses are readily available and can be purchased for starting around $10 per 25 feet. Soaker hoses offer a number of benefits. Very little water is wasted, and the dripping from a soaker hose does not dampen plant leaves. If there's one thing our Missouri fungi like, it is wet leaves. Soaker hoses are easier on the budget, but they do need to come inside during the winter. The hose material breaks down in the elements, so you may find yourself needing to replace your hoses every couple of years. Now, if you're looking for an almost free option, we have a method promoted by Chuck Connor, an urban forester with Missouri Department of Conservation. Take a 5-gallon bucket and drill an 1/8-inch diameter hole near the bottom. Always wear your safety equipment when operating power tools. New trees and shrubs take about 2 to 3 gallons of water every 4 to 5 days. Place just one bucket, add a few rocks to stabilize, fill it up, and my one bucket waters my new planting. Established trees are a little different story. That same guide sheet indicates that mature trees are obviously much more tolerant of dry conditions, but a 30-foot tree could need around 39,000 gallons of water to replenish the subsoil during drought, so the bucket method is just not practical. This is where the soaker hose shines. With your soaker hose, you can deliver around 200 gallons per hour, covering a 2-foot wide area. Moving your soaker hose to 3 or 4 spots around a drip line is a great way to water efficiently and make a difference. Consider your watering options and whatever your budget allows. Be smarter about how we use our water resources so everyone has the water they need. Be sure to check the Show More section below for links to the MU Extension Guide Sheets. Thanks for joining us. If you like our Tuesday tip, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on our next video. See you in the garden.
Okay, Jared, so can you play the second video? So that is on why are my tomato leaves called? Okay.
Our tomato plants, for the most part, have been growing pretty well through the spring, and then this warm weather shows up, and it's kind of shocking for them. The root system is not developed well enough to really support the leaves, and you may hear this called physiological leaf curl, and it's not a disease or an insect, it's due to the environment. So as we get into warmer weather, the soils are wet, the plant hasn't developed the root system to maintain the leaves, so its reaction is to curl to try to save moisture, and you may see a thickening of the leaves. There's some varieties more prone to this than others, and a couple of them are Big Boy and Beefsteak. We see the tomato leaf roll on those more than maybe some of the others. And if you've done tilling around the plant or cultivating the weeds and you cause some damage to the root system, that can also aggravate tomato leaf roll. Good news, it's not a disease or insect. It's just a matter of giving them a little bit of time for the root systems to develop more and also for our soils to dry out a little more. We do have an extension guide on growing home garden tomatoes, and that would be a good reference for anyone that's growing tomatoes.
All right. Thank you very much, Jared. So the next talk is given by Ramon about the tomatillo trouble. So the tomatillo plant turning yellow.
Oh, can you all hear me?
Yes, and I can see your screen as well.
Yeah, as Dhruba indicated, there was this question in the for this meeting, for this garden hour, and it's about tomatillo yellowing and wilting. And the actual question is, why my plant turning yellow, but the one next to it, it isn't? Without having the plant to inspect it closely, we only can guess. I mean, the best thing to find out what it is to send the plant to the lab, the test lab, the diagnostic lab. However, based on the picture, it is very likely that this plant is being infected by a soil-borne disease, and the other one next to it has not. Now, and that's this is a guess without knowing what it is. And the person that made the questions and other pictures, but the most important thing is to see if there is a soil-borne diseases. We actually have to pull the plant and cut it, and that would lose the plant. So if this plant is not producing any fruit, the person that made the questions can cut the base of the plant. And we're going to talk a little bit and see if there is any discoloration. We're going to talk about 3 soil-borne diseases that are called wilt. And so you can see how to determine this, if one of them it is. The 3 of them look very alike. In the symptoms, there are slight differences, and in the discoloration of the cambium of the stem, the wood part of the stem and the cambium are very similar. The 3 the pathogens are Fusarium, Verticillium, and bacterial wilt. In the case of Fusariums, there are 2 species. One is the actual wilt, that is a southern wilt once it's infected, and the other one, the crown and root rot. The wilting is much, much slower, but it will wilt also. And there is the same species, but with 2 different forms of speciality. They're very different strains. And that's why there are differences in the symptoms and how they infect the plant and develop the disease. So we're going to go a little bit up on these particular diseases. You can see here 2 pictures in tomato and eggplants of what is a Fusarium wilt. In the case of Fusarium, usually you see the yellowing of the leaves. Yeah, and with Verticillium, you might see yellowing, but you see more necrotic leaves than yellowing. And in a bacterial wilt, you don't see any yellowing. Those are the main differences. The picture on the top there, you can see that half of the leaf in that plant is yellow. That's very characteristic of Fusarium. The bottom plant on the eggplant is also Fusarium, and you can see that practically the whole leaf. And you can see some necrotic with the dead leaves too. At the end, they're gonna die and they're gonna dry out. But as I mentioned, all these 3 are soil-borne diseases. And the fact that they're soil-borne, they have structures that will survive in the soil, or they can live out of organic matter. So they infect through wounds in the roots. One different, when I mentioned that we talk about bacterial wilt in Solanaceae, in melon, is a totally different bacterial species. It's not the same as the one that attacked Cucurbitaceae is a different bacterial species than the one that attacked Solanaceae or tomatoes. So in the case of Cucurbitaceae in melon, that one is transmitted by cucumber beetle. The bacterial wilt that is attacked tomatoes and Solanaceae is not transmitted by cucumber beetle, but it might be transmitted by soil insects, as well as other soil animals or creatures. But essentially, they infect the plant by wounds made by insects or wounds made by nematodes, or natural wounds when a lateral root comes out of a main root, it produces a natural wound, and this bacteria or fungi can infect through those wounds. And that's how these three pathogens infect the plant. They affect the vascular system, as I mentioned before, and that's when infect the vascular system, it stops the flow of water from the roots to the foliage, and that causes the wilt. Yeah, the more virulent, the more strong ones will produce a strong, fast wilt. The other ones will be more slow, but both of them, in the case of Fusarium, will produce wilt. In the case of Fusarium wilt, I mentioned that it produces a yellowing wilt. Verticillium, it can be a little yellow, but it's mostly necrotic, V-shaped necrotic leaves. And bacterial wilt, that's not yellow, it wilt all green. So here's when you see, when you cut the stem at the base, you can see those necrotic tissue or darkened tissue in the vascular system or in the wood. And that is a very clear sign that is one of the three pathogens. And that is showing the clogging of the vascular system, not allowing the water to go up to the foliage. So in the case of this person that I sent the picture, I would ask them to do the cut at the base of the plant to see if it sees a vascular discoloration, browning or darkening or necrotic tissue. That would indicate that the plant is infected with one of these diseases. If that doesn't happen, then it might be something else, but likely it is one of those three diseases. And management then is look for resistant varieties. When you see these plants in your garden, pull them with roots and everything as soon as possible and dispose them by burning or bury them if possible, or bury them deep. Remember that when the plant tissue is infected, the pathogen is there, and if you put them back in the soil or you put them back in your compost, they're going to survive. And then you put back that inoculum back into the soil, and it will infect new plantings next year or in a few years. So do not put those plants, diseased plants or dead plants in the compost pile, and do not incorporate them in the soil. And if you have infested soil, avoid them with the same type of plant, do rotation. So crop rotation is another part of the healthy or sanitation of the soil. And with that is all I have. So Dhruba.
All right, so thank you so much, Ramon. So our next question of the week is the problem on the pumpkin, and our colleague, Ms. Katie Kemmler, is going to answer that question. Katie, please.
All right, so the question was about, everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, so the question was about the yellowing on this, and it was a specific variety of pumpkin called Dickinson, which Dickinson is a Cucurbita machata type, which is your tan pumpkins, which are your pied pumpkins, and also your butternut squash. And as soon as I saw the pictures, I knew immediately what had happened because I have done this in my own pumpkin patch. So this is actually glyphosate damage. So if you notice in the pictures, the grass around those stem ends is dead, and some of the grass you can see is starting to yellow. There's some other weeds you can see in the picture that are starting to yellow. And yellowing of those leaf tips, you can see it in the veins, is indicative of glyphosate. So here's a picture of some that I have done in my garden in the past. You notice the weeds, there is grass weeds, there's ragweed, there's copperleaf. And they are starting to show signs of dying, which is great, but look what I did to my pumpkins. The reality is, most of the time they grow out of it. They look a little rough for a while. My suggestion to avoid this, or even just dealing with some damage, is since this was 4 plants in a little area, even in my big pumpkin patch, I mulch. I put down straw, and one that holds moisture in, also keeps the weeds down, and particularly when we're talking drought, keeping that moisture in is good. And also keeps your pumpkins cleaner at harvest. So that is all I have.
All right, thank you very much, Katie. So our next topic is about protecting yourself from the heat. And our colleague, Eli, is going to talk about that.
All right. Well, this is a pretty prescient topic. Thanks for all the talk we've already had about drought. Everyone knows we're in a rough place, but this also comes along with some high temperatures, which we are about to start really experiencing tomorrow. Oops. All right, so we're going to talk about summer heat waves. There's an increased risk for heat-related illness. It takes, if you're working outside all the time, it'll take your body 7 to 10 days to fully adjust and be able to manage itself in that hot weather. And if you go inside the house for the weekend, or you take a vacation up to Alaska for a week, your body's going to go right back to its original state, and your body will have to readjust to deal with this hot weather. So one of the most important things to do is monitor for signs of illness. So you need to monitor yourself and others, and rapid changes in work intensity, and having a buddy while you're working outside, especially if you're in a vulnerable population, is valuable. Heat rash symptoms, they cause clogged pores. It looks like pimples due to the extreme sweating. Then you get worse and you start to get cramps due to loss of salts and electrolytes. And as it gets even worse, heat exhaustion, nausea, confusion, headache, and thirst. This is when you really hope you have a buddy to start taking care of you once you start to get confused. And then the most dangerous, heat stroke, stagger, irritability, lose consciousness, seizures, and vomit. And so how to treat these heat-related illnesses at your lower level with the heat rash symptoms. Once you get back into mild temperatures, your rash will disappear. These cramps due to loss of salts and electrolytes, you can replenish these lost fluids with electrolyte-containing beverages. Heat exhaustion, it's time to get out of the heat. You need to drink liquids with electrolytes and return your body to normal state. And if you get the heat stroke, get the heat stroke. If you get heat stroke or your buddy gets heat stroke, the victim needs to go to a cool place and seek immediate medical attention. This is the time when you call 911. This is not something to be fooled with. I just read a news article earlier in the week about a father and son that passed away from heat stroke hiking out west. Important thing that Tony mentioned earlier, but to think about when you're gauging whether or not you want to go outside and work, is the heat index. And so you can see on this axis on the left, you have your relative humidity, and then across the top, you have your temperature. And so at a temperature of 90 degrees, once the relative humidity hits only 60%, it already feels like it's 100. Once it hits 95%, which is quite common here in the Midwest, your heat index is 127. This is when you're really going to want to limit the amount of time you spend outside, right? So you have your caution, extreme caution, danger, and extreme danger in red. So this is just something I think it's easy enough to get access to heat index information and temperature information now with weather apps on your phone, as well as TV and radio. And thankfully, there are heat warnings that are now being pushed out to weather apps and can help you make decisions of what you want to do for that day. So here's some recommendations for health. Drink a lot of water, talking about drinking 3 or 4 cups of water an hour to avoid dehydration if you're working outside. Rest in the shade as needed. Work and rest cycles let the body get rid of excess heat. And wear a hat and light colored, loose fitting clothing. You may want to slightly increase your daily salt intake if you're sweating a lot. Review your medications. This might be something if you're taking diuretics and antihistamines, to check in with your doctor or healthcare provider to make sure it's not going to cause you issues, or how to best manage it if you're out working in your garden. At home, check your air conditioner for efficiency. You know, if you are, for some reason, don't have air conditioning, think about ways to keep your house cooler, sleep in a cooler part of the house, such as the basement. You want to plan before you go to work. Make sure you bring enough water, shade devices, and protective clothing. I think sunscreen is a really fantastic thing to use while you're outside on a regular basis, not only to avoid long-term issues like skin cancer. It seems to keep me cooler, at least during the day when I'm in the sun. Be a cool cook like this one. You don't need to heat up your house to make dinner. This is not the time of year to bake a roast. Serve cold sandwiches, salads, and other foods. Don't need to be cooked or baked. Here's some resources that I will stick into the chat. Dhruba, back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Eli. So these are all topics and questions we have for today, and I will get back to our host, Donna. So Donna, please.
Okay, so I pulled up the map for all the horticulture specialists across the state. Take a look at your area and see who is closest to you. That is your horticulture specialist. If at any time during the week, during the month, or throughout the year you have questions horticulture related, anywhere from plant ID to what's wrong with my plant, how to read a soil test. I mean, we answer all sorts of questions, even where the local post office is. So if you have any questions, just reach out to any number of us. If there's a vacancy in your area, just reach out to the next person. And really, any of us will answer any questions you have. And what's nice about the horticulture group in Missouri is we are pretty tight knit and we share with each other. And if we can't figure out what's going on, we always reach out, and we have a meeting every week where we can share those pictures, share those comments. And so that makes a pretty good network where you can get some of your questions answered. Don't forget, we do have a diagnostic lab that will also help you out. We can send pictures or even samples to have problems cultured or looked at. So we have lots of great resources. Don't forget to look at our MU Extension webpage. We have lots of great guides that can help you in your gardening adventure also. So if you want to go and watch some of the snippet videos, or you want to rewatch some of the live streams where you go, well, okay, I'd like to see that again, you can go to our YouTube channel, and all you have to do is go to www.youtube.com. On their search bar, you're going to push in MUIPM, and you're going to search for that, and it should pop it up. And you can actually subscribe to that. And we have lots of videos, lots of content. Like I said, you can watch all sorts of previous town hall episodes, lots of different information that you can reach out and grab, and have many education events for yourself. Just keep in mind that we meet every Wednesday from noon to 1, and our next one will be next week on July 5th. If you want to save our chats, because we have lots of great links that you can go to, you pull up your chat on the lower right hand side, you'll have 3 dots at the bottom of the page down here. Click on that 3 dots and you hit save chat, and it should save it to your download file, and you can go there and see all the links that we have shared. So once again, there's our specialist map. And at this point, I will leave you for the day, and I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the day. Stay cool, stay safe, and keep those plants watered, because we want vegetables now, don't we? So, and don't forget flowers. Flowers are always beautiful. So enjoy your day and take care.